Hello everyone, welcome to part 4 of my research in relation to the Archbishop of Canterbury. It's the early hours of the 2nd of December 2024. I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable. I'm getting tired, but I need to do this. So we were looking at the Baby Fund Trading Limited in part 3, and we established it's a fraudulent entity company. The Baby Trading Fund, read into that what you will. Back into the King Charles III company, and we have Kenneth Olisa OBE, and he's linked, or she, to the Hawaii Technologies company. And some of you may or may not be aware of the controversy around Hawaii and the 5G technology a few years ago, when clearly we have links to the UK government very closely through to Hawaii itself. I suspect that was all deception and part of the international collaboration against humanity in relation to the mobile communication systems and the threat from the radiation from it. You can see this person was resigned as I'm making inquiries within my company in March 2022. Here's the Hawaii company, and you can see it was started on the 28th of September 2001, not long after the World Trade Center disaster. On its incorporation document, it has Jordan's. You see on the corner of this page. Was there something else on this bit? Yeah, also Deloitte and Touche. I haven't focused on this much before, but I have seen it, so it is linked to the fraud as well. Further down on the document, you can see a Chinese address, which would make sense because it is, I believe, a Chinese phone company, I believe. So back into the King Charles company, we have Amelia Fawcett, and she's linked to the Wellcome Trust. Now, I've seen this once or twice in my research. Somebody the other day sent me this email, so I've just hidden the name to protect them. It says, I hope you're well. Have you heard of the Wellcome Foundation? It took over the eugenics research done in the late 1800s to the 1950s by Francis Galton. Francis Galton was the cousin of Charles Darwin. This is very important because the Charles Darwin Trust is shown in my previous research linking to Jewish companies, which suggests that the Jewish religion has been infiltrated by a different type or group of people, because that would disprove the theory of evolution linked to Charles Darwin, would disprove all religions, including Judaism. On those same documents, you have links to Madeleine McCann, which we're going to come to in a minute. There's links, and also to the NHS on there, and also to Switzerland, which is very significant, and the connection to the Pharaohs and them appearing to be now based in Switzerland, where they can feel as though they can hide away if they've got any sinister plans against the rest of the world in their tunnel systems, potentially. It says the family was highly corrupt and started the belief that human life mutated from animals. Galton's research inherited family traits. He researched, inherited family traits. His work led to enforced sterilization of low intelligence and disabled people. Galton's work was the basis of Hitler's extermination policies. Now, everyone needs to understand, it's very clear from this evidence that it appears that international governments were collaborating over the world wars, and of course there's motive for them to do it with this fraud, because it allows them to defraud the public through the taxation system by pumping government contracts, using tax contributions into defense weapons manufacturing, and defraud the public via that way. It also allows them to steal children from those conflicts and put them into the child trafficking network and all of the awful things that this is very clearly linked to in so many ways. What does it say? I've studied Galton extensively, if you want to know more, so that's very interesting. I haven't verified that information, but that's one of so many emails I'm getting coming in from so many different people now, where people are really understanding how significant all of this is. I mean, it's critical now. Humanity is on the brink of either a complete positive change or a very negative change for humanity and the planet. And these people really do need to ensure they choose the right thing in how they move forward. This same person is also linked to Guardian Media Group. Well, that is obviously a huge media company in relation to the media sector within society, and all mainstream media has been compromised by this. I've got the evidence. Most of them have fraudulent entity companies linked to them, which means they can launder money through their accounts. And of course, this was planned for a very long time. They've got a full centralized system now where they've got pretty much control over everything by a very small number of people, and it's all been done through crime. Okay, and they knew, or they thought, that if they ensured that they would have the complete control of the media to prevent this all being exposed, then it would never be exposed. Ironically, their own technology, the social media and the internet, to be able to research it, is enabling them to be fully exposed. And maybe they knew that might happen. So here we have Guardian Media Group. They're also linked to the National Maritime Museum in Cornwall Trust. Well, that's important because Brian Gerrish is connected to Cornwall via some of his his companies via his real name. Remember, he refused to speak to me and assist me in exposing this, despite it being very clearly connected to everything that he's talking about. And instead, as I've said, he decided to collaborate with others and get them, or they went and spoke to people within my company who are very clearly very connected in relation to all of this, and removed me because I was trying to prevent it. Here we have Morgan Stanley and Co. linked to the same person. They have featured throughout the fraud before. Back into the King Charles Company, we have Julie Moore, and she resigned in 2024. You can see 8 years after she was appointed, as I was exposing the fraud. And she's linked to the Health Data Research UK company. She was appointed there in 2023. On the incorporation document for that company is Eversheds, that features throughout the fraud and links to the police associated companies. In the New Generation company, the links to Russia and very quickly to the royal family, where they're removing company names, and the royals are King Charles and Prince William are resigned. You have Farah and Co. Well, Farah and Co. is linked to Ghislaine Maxwell and international child trafficking. So you can see how this all ties in. Also, New Generation was connected to Swifting Corporations Limited in 2002, not long after the World Trade Center disaster. Now, going back into the very first company that was attached to the record of the Archbishop of Canterbury, we had this one, the Auckland Project. And this is extremely important. It's based in Durham, where there are significant pieces of information suggesting that could be a key location to the sinister plans of those behind all of this, which are the international governments and those that control them. Within the Bishop Auckland Company, the Auckland Project Company, and we have Jane Dean, and you can see the address is Bishop Auckland, and she was appointed in 2023 as this fraud is being exposed. And here is Jane Dean, and we're going to come to this later when we go into more information about the concerns regarding this particular area. So Jane Dean is linked to 14 companies, including, you can see here, the National Museum of the Royal Navy Trading. Now remember, if you saw my last video, Brian Gerrish was working on board a particular vessel, HMS Orkney, which ended up being scrapped, I believe, in Portland Harbour. I'm going to come to that in a minute. Brian worked for the Royal Navy, and I wish he would talk to me about this, but he's refused to even explain any of his connections to all of this fraud. So this does suggest that Brian either used false details for that previous entry, or it was a relative of his that is connected to them. So we now have a link to University Hospitals, Bristol and Western. Well, that connects into the Lucy Letby case. Bristol is very significant around the Lucy Letby case. And those of you who don't know about it, it was the nurse that was accused and charged and found guilty of murdering, I think it was 7 babies. I suspect there's something a lot more to it. A lot more to it. Well, I can tell you from the documents I've produced and some of the videos which keep getting taken down, I wonder why, that the doctors that initiated the investigation against her are linked massively into international government fraud that appears to link to child trafficking. So I suspect they may be using her, poor Lucy Letby, as a scapegoat. And then we have P&O pensions. Well, that links into the World Trade Center disaster. And here we are, like I said, we have Portsmouth Historic Dockyard. Now, this is very important because this then links into the information I have regarding Donna Jones, the Police and Crime Commissioner for this area. These companies link back into Donna Jones, the Police and Crime Commissioner's office, and therefore linking back into the police. And remember, if you remember my evidence, as I'm reporting all of this to my previous police force, Dorset, the Assistant Chief Constable, Sam DeRaya, that oversees the department I was reporting to, was moved to Hampshire and Isle of Wight, which is where Portsmouth is, okay? So was the Chief Constable, Scott Chilton. The head of the council for that area resigned. The head of the Serious Fraud Office was moved. The head of the Independent Office for Police Conduct was moved. But it was just to try and cover everything up. It's clear. Because I'm now being completely ignored by all UK police forces. And this is the very serious concern in all of this, is that they have gone very, very quiet, which suggests they are biding their time for something potentially very sinister against the masses. So that's why it's important I get this evidence and information out. Back into the Auckland company, Bishop Auckland, you've got Anna Lynch. She's linked to the East Durham Community Development Trust. Remember, we've got connections to Durham. And as I've said, there are concerns about that location being very significantly linked to what these people may be planning on a spiritual basis, shall we say. Because this absolutely is a spiritual war. We are literally good versus evil. And it could go either way. And these people need to understand that what they're doing is going to end in disaster for them spiritually and everyone else spiritually and physically. Okay, it isn't meant to happen what they're trying to, it seems, make happen, which is fulfill a false evil prophecy. So here we are, we have within that company, East Durham company, we have Alan Miller. And you can see he resigned in January 2022 as I'm reporting or making inquiries within my company. And he is linked to the Durham Agency Against Crime. So we now have a connection to the police, because of course they would be involved in this. And you can see this person was appointed from 1996 to 1998. And here is the Durham Agency Against Crime. And it was incorporated, you can see, in 1991, the same year as the Gulf War, which I suspect is no coincidence. And it is a fraudulent, illegal entity company with Swift Incorporations and Jordans and Sons. You can see at the bottom there, Jordans and Sons. So it's a criminal organisation, and of course they would know that. It's a police organisation. Now just a couple of other little bits of research. So when you search Bishop Auckland, it comes up with Bishop Auckland Energy Park Limited. And looking into it, you can see they had these different company names, and they appeared to change it as the fraud was being exposed. On the incorporation document, you have Orkara UK Limited. What page number is that? Page 5 of 12. And then on 9 of 12, you have Ian Saunders, which is a name that is used throughout the fraud on the incorporation documents. And it appears as though he's on the forged documents and links normally to a forged company, the London Law Agency, I believe it is. So it appears as though they're just using his name on other companies as well to avoid accountability and liability. So here's Orkara that we just mentioned there, Orkara, and it says it's a new company for the energy transition. Orkara is backed by Atlas Invest, a leading private investor with a focus on the energy sector. Here's Atlas Invest. We're a private investment company focused on the energy sector as well. I suspect Atlas Invest is linked to the Atlas Hotels connection, which links to Jeffrey Epstein as well. So here, Atlas Invest, and you'll see when you search it, it comes up with the Atlas Corporation at the bottom. Here's the Atlas Corporation. It's an American investment firm that was formed in 1928. Atlas invested in and managed a number of major US companies during the 20th century and has a number of investments in natural resources. I'm not going to read all of this, but it managed to survive the financial crash. You can always pause this if you want to. It was founded by Floyd Odium. And actually, it's fairly important to recognise that it was formed in 1928. Remember, we had the resurgence of the Pharaoh movement in the 1920s to 30s, according to the research. And other evidence suggests that they are behind all of this sinister activity around the world. And they were very much about slavery. When you research the ancient pharaohs about slavery, enslaving people, well, that's what we're going to be seeing very soon into a digital currency system if things do not change. We've got mentions of RKO at the bottom here. Just reading through quickly, you can pause it and read it all. So it's linked here to the Atlas missile program. You can see it was named after the Atlas Corporation. So the Atlas missile program. This is the Atlas missile program. Now, bearing in mind, I suggest if you haven't already watched it, you watch my phone call recently to the Scottish Police and my evidence linking to Astra Holdings Limited and the information of potentially missing nuclear warhead. Okay, so now we're coming in and we're making connections to a nuclear weapon company. And it says the SM-65 Atlas was the first operational intercontinental ballistic missile developed by the United States and the first member of the Atlas rocket family. It was built for the US Air Force by the Convair Division of General Dynamics at an assembly plant located in San Diego. We're going to come to General Dynamics a bit later. Atlas C was declared operational in September 1959. You can see at the end there, Atlas was obsolete and it was retired from the ICBM role by 1965. Well, 1965 is when the company Jordans and Sons Limited was started, which features right the way throughout the fraud. Okay, so the person that founded that was Floyd Odium. And here's a bit about Floyd. So he died in 1976, 5 years after the World Economic Forum. He was an American lawyer. Remember, they've got the whole legal system appears to be centralized and set up around this system of fraud because it's worth trillions. Remember, let's face it, through the taxation system, defrauding the public of trillions of pounds, a crime against humanity on the most unimaginable scale, but in particular against the children. Reading on, it says he had been described as possibly the only man in the United States who made a great fortune out of the depression, the financial depression. Further down, you can see mentions within the information about him that he had a major stake in RKO Studios as well as these other companies. Now, researching RKO Studios, you can see it comes up as RKO Pictures or Radio. It's an American film production and distribution company, one of the big 5 film studios of Hollywood's golden age. The business was formed after the Keith Albee Orpheum theatre chain and film booking offices of America studio were brought together under the control of the Radio Corporation of America in October 1928. Okay, so you can see a real start of Hollywood being centralized as well and linked into this fraud. And of course, through films and television, other media and entertainment, you have the ability to also manipulate the public, the people, the masses. And that is potentially where it is a significant part of MK Ultra, which is subliminal messaging and radiation from devices to affect humans without them even knowing. So we have RKO companies here mentioned, and it was controlled. You see at the bottom, by the mid-1940s, RKO was controlled by investor Floyd Odium. So just a little bit of information here. Remember the company Orkara earlier. When you search that on Companies House, comes up with an address for one of their companies of Wimborne in Dorset. Well, this is where someone significant in my company lived, so I'm led to believe. And in fact, they're part of the church network in Wimborne. Now, remember it said Atlas Invest earlier. We're now looking at Atlas Invest. Here's Atlas Invest company based in Edinburgh, according to this. An active company with a previous name. You can see it's actually Atlas Invest LP till 2017. And they've hidden the officers. Okay, so you can't see the people record, even though their job is to make the public aware of company details. Found within this section of the filing history is this document. And on this document you have a couple of companies, including PKD Insights Limited. Remember PKD we were talking about a moment ago. When you search in Wiki PKD, it comes up with ICAO PKD, the International Civil Aviation Organization Public Key Limited. And here's the International Civil Aviation Organization Public Key Directory. The International, I'm not going to read that, is a database maintained by the International Civil Aviation Organization holding national cryptographic keys related to the authentication of e-passport information. Participants of this scheme, the United Nations became the first non-state participant in October 2012, enabling issuing of EUNLLP, the electronic form of the United Nations. Laissez passer, whatever that is. So you can see this is increased. So the e-passports, as of November 2024, 100 participants were part of the ICAO PKD. So what they're going to be looking at is, it looks like it's quite clear they're trying to go for full control e-passports, which could include some sort of microchip processing. I'm not too sure. I haven't looked into it. But this is obviously all connected to what we're talking about very quickly through from the Archbishop, and full digital currency control, as well as potentially the threat from certain things. An attack on humanity, basically, completely unnecessary. When you search PKD in Companies House, it comes up with PKD Development Group, I think we're going to look at, Limited. And the address on here is very significant. Kemp House, 160 City Road, London, United Kingdom. That links almost directly to the World Trade Center companies and disaster, and also to Madeleine McCann via the information obtained by someone who I believe is Madeleine McCann. Okay, it also features right the way throughout the fraud in various locations. So that means we now have a connection to all of this via very close links to the nuclear weapons company that we were looking at earlier, and those connections to the research. On the incorporation document for it. Now, General Dynamics was what mentioned earlier. Do you remember? It was a little while ago now, but it was within the other Wikipedia research. Here's General Dynamics. It's an American publicly traded aerospace and defense corporation headquartered in Reston, Virginia. As of 2020, it was the 5th largest defense contractor in the world by arms sales and the 5th largest in the United States. Formed in February 21, 1952. That was not long before it looks like they drafted the Silent War Against the People in the document, The Silent Weapons of Quiet Wars. I do suggest everyone reads that. It's very sinister indeed, where they were trying to deceive us for a very long time and ensure that we were too busy to really notice what they were up to. In 2022, General Dynamics had worldwide sales of $39.4 billion and a workforce of approximately 106,500. General Dynamics. In 1970, the board brought in McDonnell Douglas President Dave Lewis as chairman and CEO. So that is 1 year before the World Economic Forum. Reading on about General Dynamics. Convair, which is linked to it, worked as an independent division inside General Dynamics, and over the next decade developed the F-106 Delta Dart Interceptor, various other military weapons, and the Atlas missile, the US's first operational intercontinental ballistic missile. In May 1965, General Dynamics reorganized into 12 operating divisions based on product lines. Now remember, 1965 is when the Jordan and Sons company was created as well. Reading down at the bottom there, towards the bottom, in October 1970, a year before the World Economic Forum, Lewis left and David S. Lewis was named CEO. Lewis required the company headquarters moved to St. Louis, Missouri, which occurred in February 1971. The same time that the World Economic Forum was created. Some interesting company names mentioned that feature throughout the fraud here. Lockheed Martin has connections. You can see it on the right hand in the middle there. Lockheed Martin links back to Dorset Police and the research to Martin Baker, as you can see in my evidence. And you also have Falcon companies. Falcon, mention of Falcon there. So now we're looking on Companies House for General Dynamics. Searching on Google. And here's General Dynamics United Kingdom. Incorporated in 1985. That's the same year that Swift Incorporations was created. And you can see had computing names before and changed its company name for the last time on the 7th of September 2001, a few days before the World Trade Center disaster, and then changed its name to General Dynamics. Within that company you have Lieutenant Andrew Figures, retired, was appointed in 2019. That links to a company that has featured in the research of the fraud, Police Digital Service. Remember, this is all linked to fraud against the masses. Within the general dynamics, you have Scott Milne, born 1977, appointed in 2024 as the fraud is being exposed. He's linked to the Tank Museum Limited, very significant connections. That is in Wareham and Bovington. Remember, Prince Wales was based in either that camp or one very close. I know it was in Bovington camp. Not Prince Wales, Prince William, sorry. Here's the Tank Museum incorporation document. On there, you've got Thales UK PLC. You can just see it here. Now, that's incredibly important. Thales, that's now being investigated for bribery offences. It links the the UK government to the Russian government and directed energy weapons threats. Okay, via the company that was creating a directed energy weapon with BAE Systems at the time Nicola Bulley passed away. I suspect they're using that as an opportunity to remove any evidence. There's been fires set as well in relation to all of this. Here's some other companies that are just featured on that document. And you can see that Weymouth and Portland Sailing Academy Limited is on there. And Thales has many, many fraudulent entity companies, okay? Criminal companies, and these are weapons companies, remember, guys? Which they would know they're creating. That means there's no accountability and liability. So every bit of ammunition that is fired is a criminal offence in UK law. There's General Dynamics Worldwide. Back into the General Dynamics, you have Abogado Nominees Limited. And you have connections to Google Cloud within there, public sector, United Kingdom Limited. You have Apple Technology UK Limited, as in mobile phones. Apple Payment Services, so all linked to the fraud. Netflix Animation. JP Morgan. Okay, this is huge. JP Morgan is a very important company in all of this, because it links back to the company where I acquired forged bank documents via the Fleming family. Here's another JP Morgan company. So loads of I'm not even showing all of this, okay? This is only some of it. And you have Victoria Beckham linked to that company as well. And you also have JP Morgan Cazenove pension trustees. That is featured throughout the fraud before, at least 2 or 3 times. Fraudulent companies all the way through. International fraud against. One bit I missed in relation to General Dynamics. Okay, remember you've got the Swiss connections. From 1955 to 1960, General Dynamics hired Eric Nitsch as a graphic designer to develop designs for the corporate reports and advertising material, including the Atoms for Peace series of posters for the 1955 International Conference on the Peaceful Uses of Atomic Energy in Geneva, Switzerland. So Switzerland again. Thank you very much for watching. Please watch part 5 of the Archbishop of Canterbury research soon. God bless. Take care.